Hello, good afternoon. We are here today at the Cooperators Conference for USSEC at San Jose, Costa Rica. We are here now with Jean Sutter, CEO of USSEC, and Carlos Salinas, USSEC Regional Director for Americas.
Correct.
And we are going to talk about the soy situation for USA and for Latin America. So first, I'm going to make a question for Jim. What brings you here now, today, to Costa Rica at San Jose, and what is the role of USSEC?
That's a great question, Eduardo. And USSEC is an organization that represents U.S. soy farmers, U.S. exporters, and all parts of the U.S. soy export supply chain, as we call it. We're a chain organization. So as we do that, one of the very important things that we can do is get out and talk to customers of U.S. soy, organizations that use the product that our U.S. soy farmers produce and our exporters export. So every year we try to have a conference called a Cooperators Conference where we invite customers from the region to get together. And the cooperator word means that we're doing this in conjunction with other U.S. export organizations, similar to USSEC, but groups that handle other commodities. So we're here with U.S. Wheat, U.S. Grains Council, and USA Rice. So those organizations handle other commodities, but all things that are produced by U.S. soy are U.S. farmers. So what else we do is it's really important that we hear the concerns of customers so we know what's on their mind, and that we try to provide the latest information to them, because we believe by providing transparent information about what's going on with our crop and what's happening in the U.S. soy industry, we think that that helps build the relationship between USSEC and U.S. soy and the customers in the region.
Okay, that's nice. As CEO of USSEC, what is your vision about the role of U.S. soy in advancing food security goals around the world, and particularly in Latin America?
Yeah, that also is a great question, because, we hear regularly about the growing population, food insecurity in some parts of the world, and the real issues that there are with making sure that people have enough to eat, while also balancing that with making sure that as we try to produce more, we do it in a sustainable way. So we protect the environment and all of those sorts of things. So my vision is that U.S. soy is an excellent way for countries around the world to secure food-safe, climate-smart supplies of food in a very economical way. Soybeans can be used they're often used as a very important feedstuff for livestock or aquaculture. Of course, the soybean has a meal component that is the protein portion, and an oil component that goes into cooking oil, those kind of things. And then, of course, there's the human nutrition aspect. Soy can be consumed, can be processed and turned into things like tofu or other human direct consumption type products. So I think soy is a great way to feed to make sure we have food security for the world. Now, specifically to the Americas, the Americas, the industries here in all of the various countries in the Americas, first off, they do a great job. They're very efficient. They are generally leaders in their fields, producing poultry, producing swine, producing fish, producing all these sorts of things extremely efficiently. So our role is to just continue to help them. One of the things that our organization does is put on conferences like we're doing here today, or other types of conferences where we're sharing technical information, perhaps the latest technology in producing chickens or that kind of thing. So we just try to make sure that we're helping the companies in the region be as efficient as they can, so they can do a good job in making sure that they're providing the food that the people within the region need.
Okay, I understand. And what would you say are the biggest challenges for achieve those goals in food security?
Yeah. Well, I think there are several. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we've lived through several challenges. We had the COVID challenge. We have the ongoing currency challenge. We've had the climate challenge that we're all dealing with. And all of those things in their own way impact the companies and the consumers here in the Americas region. I hope that the COVID challenge is behind us and we're about to be finished with that one. I think the currency challenge is one that continues to be there. And one of the things we can try and do, we obviously can't control the currency, but we can try and provide information, try and provide education for companies and for people that are making hedging decisions, purchasing decisions, so we can try and help them with that. And then the other part, I think, because I think climate and the whole protection of the environment fits into this. And food security and making sure that it's being done in a climate-smart way, I think is more and more important to consumers over time. And I think especially younger generation consumers have more concern about the environment and wanting to make sure that the food that they're buying and that the things that they're consuming are not having a negative impact on the ability of the planet to be able to produce in the future, to supply their children. So U.S. soy has a very sustainable environmental footprint, very good in that way. And I think being able to educate people about that is very important, because we can not only talk about the nutritional security, but also the climate smart or the good things that come in that regard. So I think those are the things we're doing to try and package that together for the consumers in the region, of course, working through all of the companies that sell directly to the consumers.
Okay, nice. I understand. You talked about technology, innovation, sustainability at your presentation here, but can you share some examples of how U.S. farmers are applying those concepts?
Sure. We were able to have a panel here of some U.S. farmers, and each of them talked about the way that innovation and the adoption of technology on their farms is helping them to be more efficient. I mean, one of the things that I think is really interesting, kind of has the broad category of precision farming or using technology. And, it seems simple, but it's not easy to do, but it's really having a big impact, is this idea of variable rate technology. So just picture, you have a big field, and in the old days, we would have assumed that field is perfectly the same across the whole field. So we would have put the exact same amount of fertilizer on the field everywhere, and we would have planted the exact same number of seeds everywhere. When I was growing up on a farm, that's how we did it. Today, we're able to go out there and measure using small grids and using a grid sampling process what the state of the soil is in every one of these small little sections around this field. And then we know how much fertilizer to apply, so we know how much nutrition the soil there needs, and we then know how many seeds to plant, because it's different in different parts of the field. There is a different level of nutrition and a different level of growing capacity. So I think the adoption of these variable rate technologies, so farmers are using less fertilizer, there's less fertilizer runoff or waste, and they're able to maximize their yields that way. So directly, we're using technology to help us be able to produce more efficiently, to deliver more food at better prices for people around the world.
Okay, I understand. And now this question is for both. How would you describe the relationship between U.S. agriculture and Latin American farmers?
Latin American farmers.
Yes.
Okay, Carlos, you want to start, and then I'll try.
Yeah, I think your question is, how is that relationship between different producers of poultry, of hogs in Latin America? And I think the relationship, Jim and Eduardo, it's very deep. That relationship has extended over many years, because Latin America does not, for the exception of countries in South America, does not really produce soybeans. You go all the way to Central America, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Chile, Peru, they're not soybean producers. So we always have had a connection due to the proximity, right, of that relationship, providing that protein, that feedstuff, to be able to feed those animals in those countries, providing the oil that is needed to be able to cook a lot of the foods that we like to cook, right? So, and that relationship goes over time, and it continues to grow. What is impressive to me, Eduardo and Jim, is that 7 out of the top 10 buyers of U.S. soybean meal, the protein feedstock, are in Latin America, right? So not for soybeans. Soybeans is a bit different, but soybean meal, obviously, it's extremely important. And we, through different consultants and experts that we talk to, they're outlining to us a structure that flow will continue to grow, and it will grow aggressively over the next 3 to 5 years, driven by various factors. That means that the relationship is going to expand further with those customers. So it is important that we work together. It is important that we work efficiently, as Jim said, right? And a lot of our efforts in the region, even here in this conference, you can see that we are helping our customers do more with less. We're helping them improve their feed conversion ratio, how much feed they need to produce 1 kilo of chicken or 1 kilo of pork, right? And it's important that we teach them how to do that, because all of us, as well as a farmer on our side, we're trying to do as much as we can. The end user needs to do that, because we cannot live in an environment where food becomes unaffordable. And this value chain, the more efficient it gets, that means that the more accessible that protein, that chicken, that egg, that hog, or that fish is going to be more accessible protein for the end user in the region. So that's why I think this event is important.
Okay, all right. Jim, the relationship between U.S. agriculture and Latin America.
Yeah, so I would pick up on what Carlos has said and would just reiterate, I also think that it's a very deep, long-standing relationship. And I think that one of the keys to that are the great team of staff members that the U.S. Soybean Export Council, or USSEC, has within the region. We've got people that have worked for the U.S. soy industry for a long time, have been here, know the industry very well. They know the leaders of the feed industry, the associations, the poultry industry, etc., all of these various industries throughout the region. So we're able to have quick contact if an issue starts to arise. The people in the industry are able to call us and talk to our team members and say, hey, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that. Can you give me some information? So I think it's a very good relationship that we have. Our chairman this morning, in his opening comments, used the word trust and talked about how we try to build trust with the people that we work with. And I think what we have is a very good relationship that does include a lot of trust. I think the people within the region trust our team members. I think they trust the U.S. industry and the U.S. farmers. And likewise, we trust them. We think that they are really leaders, do a great job. And so we all want to work together to try and be having a world where continuous improvement is what rules the day. So I think it's a very strong relationship, and we look forward to continuing to build it.
Yes, and what would you say is the potential impact that has U.S. soy and other crops in the region?
Could you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
Yes. What is the potential impact that has the growth of U.S. soy and other crops in the region?
So in my opinion, the best opportunity for growth within the region will be continued improvement of the economic situation here. I think we're fortunate. We have good trading relationships. We have pretty good market access in all of the markets, so that's not a problem. So it really comes down to increasing demand. And I think as the economic situation improves in the various countries in the region, I think that's what can drive increased demand, which is what the U.S. soy industry would love to see and would love to try and help create that sort of situation. One of the things we say, and I know people sort of smile when I say this, but I truly believe it, and I know that the people, the stakeholders that we represent believe it. I like to say when the customers of U.S. soy do well, our U.S. soy industry and our U.S. soy farmers also do well. And I realize that's sometimes stating the obvious, but I say it to show that we're not in a situation where that's a win-lose sort of relationship. We want this to be a win-win relationship. We want them to win, and we want the customers, the people who are consuming food in the region, to win. And when that all happens, then we will also win.
Okay. Carlos, how do you see it?
I agree with Jim. I think we do want a win-win relationship, and certainly many of our team members will say, if our customers grow, we grow. There are different opportunities in the region And not all those opportunities are the same,
Right.
but we have some very neat opportunities, for example, in the aquaculture sector. Aquaculture, has been growing, the production of shrimp, the production of tilapia, and not just for domestic demand. This is demand that is driven by exports of shrimp, let's say from Ecuador, tilapia being exported from Colombia to the U.S. or from Honduras to the U.S. So there's an opportunity to expand the industry further, right? And I see great opportunities in that industry that consumes a lot of soybean meal in their feed ration, right? As they feed those animals, they have to include a lot of protein to produce those fish more efficiently. And we've done a lot of work implementing different types of technology, different type of programs to make that happen. But certainly the opportunities vary from one sector to the other, and they also vary from one region to the other. And we see a lot of other opportunities in other sectors which are not as traditional. The pet industry, for example, right? Who doesn't have a pet here today? Most of us do have a pet. And actually, as a matter of fact, demand for pet food has grown exponentially in many of our regions. So now we are including soybean meal in the pet food production. So it's interesting how things are beginning to shift in Latin America as incomes rise, how demand deploys on how we fit in that. And we're not an entity that will sell soy in the supermarket. We supply the raw material. I like to make the analogy. We are the Intel inside. Remember Intel? Intel inside computer. We are the Intel inside that chicken. We are the soy inside that chicken. We are the soy inside that hog, that pork. We are the soy inside that fish, right? So it's an important component. It's interesting how it plays out, but with tremendous potential in the region.
Okay, now this question for Carlos. You have already answered it, but I would like to talk a little bit more. You have a deep knowledge or agriculture trade between U.S. and Latin America. What are the biggest opportunities that U.S. soy can find right now in Latin America market?
I think there's various. It's difficult to rank them because they vary by country, they vary by species, right? But for example, one of the biggest opportunities that I see, for example, is the pet food sector that we just talked about, right? Tremendous amount of growth, right? The aquaculture sector, the deployment of technologies, right? We have a technology that we call the in-pond raceway system. It's an intense production system, right? That is more efficient, it's more sustainable, right? And more profitable. So with that type of system, you're able to produce tilapia a lot better, right, than the standard traditional ponds. So the deployment of that technology in the region is gradually beginning to take off. And this is nothing new for USSEC. Jim has been deploying this in Asia, in China, for a long time already, right? But we are beginning to deploy this in Latin America. So that's a great opportunity for people to capitalize. And again, you don't have to depend on your domestic market. This is an export-driven type of market. But it is a long conversation to be had because I think those opportunities will vary, right, by different commodities. We talk about high oleic soybean oil. Yeah, it's a great opportunity. Oil is very expensive. The price of oil has gone quite a bit. High oleic soybean oil has got qualities where somebody that has a fryer no longer has to change that oil that often. It can extend the life of the oil. So imagine, right, you're able to use the oil 2 times or 2.5 times, right, its lifespan because you have a better quality trait to produce that oil. This is pretty fascinating, particularly in an environment where we talk about food insecurity. Again, all of this, if you go back to the production of animals, you go back to the oil consumption in a Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's, you go back to the farmers, you go back to the value chain, we're all trying to do more with less. And that's really the definition of sustainability. And that's, I think, where U.S. soy has the biggest advantage.
Okay, that's very nice. And last question for Carlos, but Jim, if you want, you can add some things. Carlos, you talk about achieving efficiencies, but could you share some examples of how USSEC is helping its partners to achieve those efficiencies?
Yeah, it's a very valid question and a good one. We have a lot of technical knowledge within USSEC. We have a wide access to different experts in the different sectors, whether it's aquaculture with Jairo Amezquita, or whether it's poultry with Maria Mayorga, or whether it's in hog production, right? And we hold technical sessions, we hold different educational programs. Maybe you have heard about the Soy Excellence Center, where we're bringing people that have not finished university. Some of them have not finished high school, right? From different companies in Latin America, and we teach them basic level courses and medium courses on hog production, on poultry production, on feed manufacture, on aquaculture, so they can take that knowledge and they can become more efficient. Right? That's, I think, a great example of some of the tools that we're deploying in the region to achieve that objective. But we also have, right, very advanced knowledge. We bring people to different universities in the United States to address different things, including the application of soy protein and the inclusion of different breads in Latin America, right? So that's more on the human consumption side, but those are the type of things that we continue to develop and work on. Maybe Jim has a lot better examples than I have.
No, I thought your examples were great. I would just add that, sort of, because I hear those things and I always wonder, how are we doing? How is this really working? Because in my opinion, we're doing great. But it's really the key is, what do people tell me? How do I hear from the people who live and work in the region? How do they think we're doing? And I have had the chance to meet with quite a few people since being here, had lunch at a table with people, and coffee break with people. And many of them talk about the examples of doing just what Carlos mentioned, going and participating in a course at a university, sending some of their team members to a particular course. And they all talk about the value they've received out of that and how it's helped them to become a more efficient producer. And so again, back on this theme of doing more with less, or being able to be better, able to supply the needs of the consumers of this region, I think our programs are hitting the mark in that regard. So those were great examples, and I just emphasize that gives me heart that we should keep doing them.
That's really nice. Well, Jim, Carlos, thank you very much for your time and for this interesting conversation.
Eduardo, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.